Hello and welcome to a lap of Montreal for the IMSA series on iRacing in week 11. I drove with the Porsche 991 RSR with the setup I also shared in the IMSA setup channel. And those are the conditions I used. A little word about them. I opened a dynamic session and checked what temperatures and other values you get and basically copied them and open the static session with them. Because if you open dynamic sessions, you always get a little different result, and I want to practice in exactly the same conditions all the time, and I also want to give you the opportunity to use exactly the same conditions. So I rather open a static session and with the realistic values that I got from an actual dynamic session: 50% usage, 24 degrees track temp, and 95% relative humidity. Those are probably the most important values that really have an effect on pace. This is going to be the lap time we're going to watch. I slightly missed turn 1 as you will see shortly, but in the end it was still a very competitive lap for my standards, and I was happy with it. So let's get into it and enjoy. So braking at that tarmac on the right, and third gear through the first corner, second gear through here, staying really tight at the exit and getting a nice straight acceleration zone. Here we brake between the 2 and the 1 down to third gear, using a lot of curb on the right, all the curb available on the left and all the space on the right again. Then we want to keep the car as tight as we can through here, go over to the right again, brake down to second gear, using a lot of the inside curb, but I prefer to not go behind it, then short shifting into third gear for the second part of the chicane and getting a nice exit without running too close to the wall usually. Here, down to third gear again, a lot of curb on the right, a lot of curb on the left, using all the space on the right. Now bringing the cars, keeping the car on the left through that kink and braking hard when the grass starts on the left. Down to first gear, the one and only first gear corner of the track. Also, again, keeping the car really tight at the exit to get a straight acceleration zone and a nice traction without any oversteer. And down this straight, there's not much to do. You can rest a little bit and get some concentration back, as this track can be very exhausting with all the walls. Brake slightly behind the 3 marker, down to third gear, a lot of curb to the right, a lot of curb to the left, and using all the space in the exit again. That's a lap of Montreal, and now we're going to take a little closer look from the outside again. So, turn 1, we want to brake midway through that part of grass here, or grass patch. Hard braking zone down from 6th gear to 3rd gear, and some trail braking past the apex basically. I slightly missed it here. Cost me a little bit of time, especially exiting the next corner, because the angle into this wasn't as perfect. Down to 2nd gear for this corner, slight braking and trail braking all the way till the apex, keeping the car as tight as you can, and then opening up the exit, or like having a very straight exit because you kept the car so tight, getting a good traction. A thing I usually do in the Porsche is midway through the corner, when I stopped with trail braking, I go to like 60 to 80% of throttle, and don't really get oversteer by doing that, because that's just how the engine shape or the torque shape, power shape, however you want to call it, of the engine is. You don't get oversteer by doing that, and you can keep the steering angle in. And then before I really want to get on the power 100%, I open the steering. As you can see here, I first open the steering to like 45%, and then I get on the power fully. 45%, 35 degrees, of course. It's still a lot, 45 degrees for getting on the power fully, but it's second gear, very long second gear, and very low speed, so you have a good traction, and you shouldn't really have to worry with oversteer if you don't completely turn in to the right. So then, nice little acceleration zone here. Here we brake between the 2 and the 1. Maybe you can use the Napa auto part thing on the right as well, Napa Bistoto. Like slightly before that, down to third gear, using a lot of the inside curb, using a lot of this inside curb. You can actually also sometimes use the grass a little bit, that rotates the car even more. You have to make sure to open the steering if you do so, otherwise you'll just get oversteer, which will slow you down. Then here you use all the curb on the right, all the way to the wall. Here you use also all the space available to the wall, but you don't really have to run so close every lap, because it might just go wrong. If you clip that wall, you easily end up hitting that wall. Bring the car over to the right here again, starting to brake, well, I guess like 10, no, a bit more, 20 meters before that white thing ends. Actually, if you look from here, you can also use this, brake slightly after that, but I usually am looking to the right, because this is the important thing. I want to use this extra space here a bit, so I'm looking towards this, so I rather use the orientation on the right. There's no real braking marker here, it's just a bit based on you have to get a feel for it. If you really want something, then probably this, or actually this bush, tree, whatever, looking through the fence maybe. But I would rather look to the right, because that's where the edge of the track is for me, and I don't want to clip the grass because I look to the left. Then down to second gear here, bringing the car over to the right as much as you can. Starting to turn in gentle, don't turn in too aggressively because you're still trail braking, and then you might get oversteer. Here I use a lot of the inside curb. Usually I use this as my edge, like I don't want to go behind it, but I actually did here, and it was okay. Might not always be perfect, but you can do it. Then through this corner I do a short shift into third gear to get a better traction, and usually I want to stay on the red and white curb and don't go on that, because that curb can really do strange things, get oversteer, understeer, whatever, so don't want to hit it. Now actually, you can see I get strange understeer. Car just stops turning. I didn't make contact with the wall, as you can see here also that was not an off track, even though I hit the grass quite aggressively, because of the red thing behind the curb. So rather use this as your wall, basically, that red thing. Don't get on it. Also, you have got some space to the wall then, and it will not be slower to be a little bit more gentle on the throttle and have a nicer traction without going on the grass here or something. Then go diagonal line on the straight, or not really diagonal, you go in a straight line basically as much as possible, and shorten the straight a little bit for yourself, but come over to the left in time to start braking for the next chicane. A little bit before that is my orientation for braking. You can see I'm coming on the brakes here, which is slightly before that kink in the... Here, that kink, you cannot really see it. This perspective, here you can make it out. Slightly before that, down to third gear. Be careful with that part of grass here. It can easily catch you out as you're coming over from the right, and you have to do some little steering input to the right on the braking. Not much, as you can see, it's hardly visible, but slightly turning right to not hit this part here. Then a lot of curb on this, and a lot of curb on this side, and using all the space available here again without making contact with the wall. Can stay a little bit tighter through this part by just being a bit slower, and then you can rather drive around this sausage and get a better angle for the exit and not go so close to the wall. But this was ultimately the fastest way of doing it for me. As you can also see, it was a purple sector, so the best I've done so far, even though the server is, or actually it's not the best sector I've done. It was definitely the best I've done on this server. I don't know why it's purple, because I've done, here you can see, even that's not here, that's my optimal purple, so it should only get purple if I beat that, but it didn't. I don't really understand how it works sometimes. Anyway, for the hairpin, another hard braking zone. Braking point is here. You want to keep the car on the left through that kink, and then down to first gear. Use a little bit of trail braking till the exit again, and thinking about the throttle application, down 60 to 80% without opening the steering, and then when you open the steering you can get more on the power. That's what I do. I don't use all the space here to the wall, because you have to bring over the car to the right in time to not go on the grass here. For me, it's better I found out that I rather stay a little bit tighter and get a more straight line, exiting the corner, not using all the space available there. Down this straight, you can rest a little bit from all the walls, or the close walls, as I said. And this is probably one of the best overtaking chances in the lap. You really have to set it up though in the hairpin. It's also not easy to overtake into here because this corner does not work side by side. You can see again, slightly braking after the 3, 4, and then using all the curb on the right, a lot of curb on the left, a lot of space here. You have to be careful with hitting that edge. It can easily happen that the rear of your car clips that edge and then it rotates your car into the wall. Usually doesn't end with heavy damage, but you just don't want to hit any walls because at some point you will probably damage the car, and it's also not the fastest way, as the friction with the wall will slow the car down or unsettle the car. So that's how I try to do a lap of Montreal. I hope it learned you something. Obviously, this server was not really that fast. If you want to compare it with a VRS server, for example, I guess this server was probably like 6/10 slower. On a VRS server, I did as you can see here, 31.5, and I'm pretty sure that the lap I did on this server was better in terms of the driving than the 31.5. Anyway, this server is definitely slower, but I rather practice in a bit tougher or warmer conditions to not get any surprises in the actual race when it is a bit warmer. So I hope you enjoyed the video, I hope you learned something, and I wish you a very successful week of IMSA at Montreal, and I hope to see you soon on track. Goodbye.